Hello students, we're going to talk about how to solve an inequality. And remember, when we talk about inequalities, that is when we talk about these signs instead of the equal sign. So that is your less than sign. This is our greater than sign. Less than or equal to, that means that number is also included. Versus when it's that equal sign is not underneath there, that means that number is not included. It's everything less than that number, or greater than or equal to. That means that number is included there also. So just remember, if we have like something like x is greater than 2, and we were going to graph that on a number line. Here's our 0, there's our 1, 2, and our 3, -1. A lot of times we would say, okay, well that x is greater than 2, so that 2 is not included. So sometimes we would do that open circle and then everything greater than it. Versus if we went x then is less than 1, or less than or equal to. Let's do one of those. Well, it's also equal to 1, so that's when you would do that closed hole. And x is a less than, so you're going to go this way. And one hint that I always like to tell my students is if I solve these inequalities with the x on the left-hand side of that inequality sign, notice that the arrow on my number line is the same direction as my sign. So notice how that points this way. So that's pointing, my number line also points that way. In this case, it's pointing that way. So that one also points that way. So it's just a little helpful hint. Okay, so let's talk about solving them now. When you go to solve them, it's just like solving an equation with just a regular equal sign in it, except for you have to remember one very, very, very important rule when you're solving inequalities, and that is if you multiply or divide by a negative number, you must flip the inequality sign. Okay, and this is something you're going to need to remember forever. This rule is always, it never changes. You will always see it on a test, whether it's a college entrance exam test, whether it's an SAT, probably one of my tests, anything at all. You will always see that little thing where you're going to have to multiply or divide through by a negative number to see if you remembered how to switch the sign. So just really watch that, because they just sort of sneak up on you sometimes. Let's just do a couple where we're solving. 5x is less than or equal to 2x minus 9. And just like I said, we're just going to solve it just like it's any equation. We do the opposite function in order to get, our x's all together and start solving for that x. So in this case, we're going to subtract 2x from both sides. And that leaves us with 3x now is less than or equal to a negative 9. Then we'll divide by 3 on both sides. And notice we're not dividing by a negative. So x is less than or equal to negative 9 divided by 3 is negative 3. And you usually have to go graph these on a number line when you solve them. And so let's just say there's -3, here's -4, -2, -1. And we want to say x is less than or equal to, so that means a closed hole because it's always also equal to it. It's less than, so it's going to the left of the number line. Okay, let's work another one. What about a over 6 plus 28 is less than or equal to 30. Okay, well again, we want to subtract our 28 from both sides. And that leaves us with a over 6 is less than or equal to, well, 30 minus 28 is 2. And now to get rid of that 6, because a is divided by 6, the opposite function there is to multiply by 6 on both sides. And so 6 over 6 is 1, so that just leaves me with a is less than or equal to 12. And if we graph that on a number line, here's 12, 13. Why did I put negative? 11. 10 less than or equal to, so we've got closed hole going this way again. All right, let's just do a couple more examples. We've got -4x plus 3 is greater than 23. Okay, well, our first step here, subtract 3 from both sides. So we have -4x is greater than 23 minus 3 is 20. And now I'm going to divide by -4. Divide both sides by -4. And so then you should be having bells and whistles going off in your head to make sure you flip that sign. It is no longer greater than. Now it is less than because we divided by a negative number. So x is now less than -5. And hopefully you can draw that on a number line. Just so for time's sake, I'm just going to real quickly. It's not equal to -5. It's just less than -5. So it's an open hole. We're going to send him that way. Another example, remember to distribute your 6. So 6x minus 12 is greater than 18. Now we're going to add 12 to both sides. So 6x is greater than 30. Divide both sides by 6. X is greater than 5. It's not equal to 5. So that means 5 is not included in that number, so it's open hole, greater than, going that way. So hopefully you won't have any trouble solving for those inequalities as long as you remember that one rule about the dividing by a negative sign.